Hi, I got another video for you. I really thought I'd done okay, but it occurs to me this might be somewhat useful to you. How to turn an assignment into an essay or project. There are certain tricks to the trade. Turn assignment directions into questions. Makes them easier to respond to. So for example, in your I-Search, you've got the direction to engage readers' attention and interest. Explain why learning more about this topic was personally important for you. This becomes two questions. One, how was learning about this topic personally interesting to me? So write that up at the top of a clean page or a computer screen and start writing out your answer. Second question, how can my interest be interesting to my readers? There's a kind of a thing built into the I-Search type of assignment. You are to use I in your writing. And I don't know if you've ever read too many fictional stories, but the thing is that when we read a story that's written in the first-person perspective, the character's talking about himself or herself, you may not notice this, but you are sort of automatically more drawn to that character and automatically feel closer. And it's because the character is saying I. Other stories are written in the third person. The third person creates a little bit of distance, so we feel less emotionally connected to what's going on. So the I-Search is already geared to make your interest more interesting, but of course you kind of want to compound on that by being open and detailed and descriptive about what the stakes are for you and why this is meaningful. You have another direction in the I-Search. Retrace your research steps by describing the search terms and sources you used. Discuss things that went well and things that were challenging. This becomes three questions. What steps did I take in order to do my research? And yes, that does mean that most of you are going to have something pretty similar here, but there are bound to be some differences here and there. And of course, you know, you're describing it from your own perspective, so that's going to be original and unique. Second question, what search terms did I use to gather my research? So what did you type into Google? And third, where were my sources originally published? Okay, let's say you used the search engine Ideal or the search engine Monster. Those two both have a whole bunch of job ads in them. Well, your source is not Monster. Your source is not Ideal. Those are just the boxes that the product came in. So your source is the name of the hospital that's hiring the position you would like, or the name of the public works department in the city of Fresno, or you see what I'm saying, the employer, really, for the job ads. And for the university websites, it's going to be the name of the university, but also you need to include the name of the department or the program. Okay, so that's slide 2. Slide 3, do your research to answer your questions. Once you formulate them into questions, use those questions as a guide to help you come up with your answers. And then guess what? When you put the answers in the order that the questions are asked, you have an outline. It's another way of getting there. And okay, turn your responses into paragraphs. Turn an outline into paragraphs. All right, so the search story said that you were to do these 5 things, right? Now, that can be turned into 5 different paragraphs, but then none of them would really look like an introduction. One way of coming up with your introduction is to answer points 1, 2, and 3. Notice this one ends with, you know, your main question and the sub-questions that support it. That's a fairly natural way of kind of ending your introduction. And then these could be combined as 1 paragraph, or maybe separated as 2, or maybe even separated as 3. It does depend really on how much you have to say about each of these things and what strikes you as important, where, if you like, the gravity of your message falls. Some things may get expanded on quite a bit, and others may be responded to quite briefly, 2-3 sentences. Really depends on where your center of gravity is. Okay, so as I said, the first 3 parts here, they make a kind of a natural introduction, or you can make the second, let's see, no, the first 3 as an introduction, and the second 2 parts kind of make a natural methods section. This is how science papers and social science papers are written. They tend to have an introduction, and then methods is the first body part. Okay, about paragraphing. Your answers to 1 through 3 could be an introduction paragraph, or alternatively, you could give a sort of a minimum and general answer to parts 1 and 2 back here, right? These two. Let's see, and that can sort of preface your main question, and then subsequently, after that, give fuller answers to those questions in body paragraphs. And some of those body paragraphs, they might stand alone, 1 body paragraph per one part announced, but others might sort of naturally, in your head, be naturally related to one another, and so you combine them and you respond to both kind of together. Okay, and the end result is just for your thinking ahead. This essay is to be a minimum of 1,200 words. That's about 4 pages. It's actually a little bit less. It is common, though by no means a rule, that paragraphs in a college essay take up about half a page. They can certainly be a bit shorter, they can certainly be a bit longer, but that's just about a pretty common size, about how much space it takes to explain an idea in a paragraph. And that is, of course, in MLA style, it's going to be double-spaced, and it's going to be in Times Roman 12-point font. Okay, so here we go. So that means that your final paper could be in the neighborhood of 8 paragraphs, maybe 7, maybe 9. So one of those paragraphs will be your introduction, one of those paragraphs will be your conclusion. Oh, and by the way, a conclusion does not need to be massive. In fact, if it is, it's a pretty good sign that you don't have any idea how to end. Good conclusions can be 2 or 3 sentences long, because really, they're not supposed to rehearse everything you just said. A really strong conclusion, all it's supposed to do is remind your reader of your thesis and say why all of this has been important. It's not supposed to do a whole bunch of things. It's supposed to hit a high note. Okay, so that leaves 5 to 7 body paragraphs for you. So then you think about your parts and how you break them into 5 to 7 pieces. And last, the I-SearParts. The search story can take up your introduction and your first 2 to 4 body paragraphs. Okay, the search story, remember that was the first 5 directions for the assignment. The search results, that's the second part, that can take up 2 to 3 body paragraphs. First, you're going to write a general descriptive claim about your search results. What was the big picture? What was the take home? And then what you're going to do, you remember discussion 2? The discussion 2 that you wrote and posted into Canvas for Wednesday? That is your search results. So all you have to do is go back and look at what you just wrote and refine it. Okay, in search reflections, that's getting to be the end. That should take up about the last body paragraph and the conclusion. This is where you also examine your own strengths, your own desires, your own anxieties, your own determination, and you see how well you are matched to the career goal you have. Maybe you're more ambitious than you thought, maybe you're more talented than you thought. Maybe you can go further. Or maybe you look at the career path and you say, you know, this is not really for me. I'm not sure it will make me happy. So I want to go in another direction. That's fine. Oops, this is supposed to say honesty is a lot more believable and interesting than fluff. Nobody enjoys fluff in essays. Everybody's going to feel like they just wasted time reading all those words that don't mean anything. Just, you know, hit your mark. Drop the mic. It is a good thing to conclude with what you still need to do research on. This is a common way of ending a social science or a science essay. It is also fine to conclude that you learned you should pursue a different path, or you learned something else that you should work on to achieve your goal. Okay, so these are the in-depth kind of details for putting your paper together. You have what is called conventionally, I hope you've heard of it before, it's called a shitty rough draft. And what that means really is that you're writing it from beginning to end, just kind of sitting down and getting it out. And it's a mess, but it's roughed out and you're going to perfect it later. So you're going to turn in your shitty rough draft on Friday. And then by Saturday evening, you should read some of your peers' shitty rough drafts, and I've got questions for you. And that will be in discussion 3, so you can read the further instructions there.